Okay, so I can't tell how many people are here, but welcome everyone. Welcome CSUN ASE to, is this your guys' first virtual meeting?
No.
Oh man, okay, well, part of
Well,
the
good call.
continuation of virtual meetings. So my name is Sam, I'm the Practitioner Advisor. I also serve as a committee member on the Committee on Student Conferences and Competitions. And I also, Matt, why are you texting me? Let's see, I also serve as the peer review course chair for our local YMF chapter, and I also serve as the newsletter chair for the local branch. So today is a presentation that I put together. Matt asked me to do this on COVID-19 and civil engineering. So one of the purposes of the presentation is that world events, trends, and policies affect not only our daily lives, but our careers in civil engineering. So COVID-19 is the newest pandemic to humanity, and its effects will be widespread on our profession. So again, my name is Sam, and I love giving presentations for CSUN ASE. So if you need to connect with me, if you want to connect with me, then feel free to do that on LinkedIn. So first thing is, what really is COVID-19? I'm sure you've heard this a lot before, but just in case this is new to you. So the official name of the virus is SARS-CoV-19, or the 2019 novel coronavirus. SARS stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, and when you get the novel coronavirus, your illness will be called COVID-19. The coronavirus is from the same family of viruses as the common cold. If you get COVID-19, you can experience fever, difficulty breathing, and sometimes gastrointestinal symptoms. To avoid getting the coronavirus, public health officials recommend practicing basic hygiene measures, such as washing your hands and disinfecting frequently touched items, as well as social distancing. This coronavirus is the new kid on the block, and researchers are working hard at learning more about this virus. Viruses have been prevalent as long as animals have existed. I have a list of some of the more infamous outbreaks here. Smallpox was brought to the Americas from Europe in the 1500s and wiped out indigenous populations, while the flu has been known to infect humans since about 6000 BCE. The 1918 influenza epidemic, commonly referred to as the Spanish flu, infected up to 50% of human populations and was so contagious that it spread to the Arctic and remote Pacific islands. It killed between 50 to 100 million people. HIV, or the human immunodeficiency virus, rapidly spread during the 1980s and caused the illness known as AIDS, and continues to infect millions of people worldwide. SARS, which is still the Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome virus, outbroke in China in 2002, infecting over 8,000 people. A more deadly coronavirus of MERS, or Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, is had an outbreak in Saudi Arabia in 2012, and also another outbreak in South Korea in 2015, and kills between 20 to 30% of people. And then, of course, the saga continues today with COVID-19. One of the important things to note is that viruses are a byproduct of biodiversity and genetic mutations. They are living and changing as much as we are. With that said, COVID-19 and the novel coronavirus is a new virus. It's not the first and certainly won't be the last. So given that COVID-19 is now on a pandemic scale, our very own civil engineering industry will see effects. The first and probably most visible effect to civil engineering has been on transportation systems. I know a lot of us have been enjoying the surprising lack of traffic, even for LA. However, for those that have jobs in essential industries that still have to commute, there's going to be huge time savings for not sitting in traffic. In the cases of any emergency responders will be able to arrive to sites much quicker. Due to the supply chain interruptions caused by COVID-19, you'll see lower travel costs from gas to your car, as well as cheaper airfare tickets as demand tanks. Lastly, with clear roads, local transportation maintenance crews can take advantage to increase maintenance activities, or perhaps endeavor on activities such as pavement repair that would otherwise cause large public inconveniences. However, these transportation systems also come at a cost. As humans move from point to point, disease will follow. This is why sheltering in place is so important right now. Public transit has perhaps been one of the hardest hit sectors. Regular fare income barely covers the operations to break even, so losses in revenue will hurt future operations for public transit. With less people driving on the road, there's less gasoline being bought. This means that states and the federal government will be missing out on gas tax revenues, which are used to fund roadway and highway maintenance. Airlines have also been hit hard with record cancellations. Running the numbers, airports have lost over $2.5 billion in revenue due to reduced landing fees, reduced shopping, etc. Bus companies running routes between different metropolitan areas have seen 60 to 90% drops, and Amtrak has seen a 50% reduction in bookings. Those industries are currently requesting assistance from the federal government to stay afloat with the low demand market, with airports requesting $10 billion, transit asking for $13 billion, and Amtrak requesting $1 billion. While California has listed construction, especially housing construction, as an essential service, different sectors in different states will see different effects. In the public works realm, some states and/or contractors may see reduced traffic as incentives to accelerate roadway construction projects. Others are continuing normal construction operations, while Pennsylvania's Department of Transportation has suspended all construction activity. An ill labor force may also result in construction delays. We may see increased bidding activity, which will lower bid prices as contractors try to get a backlog in an uncertain financial market. Private sector construction will most likely see delays as investors are going to begin to back out of projects. In both the private and public sectors, we'll see losses in revenues for the year, which will result in future delayed schedules up to complete cancellations of projects in the pipeline. Lastly, you're not the only one hoarding toilet paper. Equipment suppliers are also seeing increased demand from different contractors. The Associated General Contractors of America conducted a survey between March 17th and 19th with 909 contractor firms responding. 28% reported project delays or halts, 16% reported material, equipment, or part shortages, 11% reported worker shortages, whether due to work restrictions or quarantine, and another 8% reported that they were notified that a person with the coronavirus entered and may have contaminated a job site. Water treatment systems are one of the key tools in maintaining public health in developed countries. These systems help prevent outbreaks beyond viruses to bacterial outbreaks and protozoal outbreaks. However, these facilities require people to ensure their smooth and consistent operation. Many water utility agencies are prepared to continue operation despite staff reductions. The United States Occupational Safety and Health Administration recently released a statement regarding the coronavirus, that current disinfection conditions in wastewater treatment facilities are expected to be sufficient, such as oxidation with hypochlorite or prussic acid, as well as inactivation by ultraviolet irradiation. So your water will still be safe. We live in America, thank God. However, ASC's 2017 National Infrastructure Report Card gave drinking water infrastructure a D and wastewater infrastructure a D+. Access to clean water, facilities, pipelines, service, and reliability all demand further improvement in America. COVID-19 has already had an effect on the environment. People are driving less, and non-essential industrial complexes are not operating and therefore not causing pollution. The 2015 study reported that air pollution was responsible for 1.7 million deaths in China alone. But while we're not able to see and quantify the reduction in air pollution until this crisis is over, there will certainly be a public health benefit. Companies are having to decentralize supply chains, such as grocery stores switching to locally sourced food. This means that your point-to-point is going to be a lot shorter, and therefore you're consuming less gas. Finally, we're going to see some increased well-being just from having more family time and time off, as well as increased work flexibility, especially going forward. Lastly, China has temporarily halted wildlife trade due to the novel coronavirus's trace origins to a wildlife market in Wuhan. With this said, companies may feel pressure to make up for lost revenues from the crisis and may ramp up industrial activity after the crisis. Some areas have already had historically high levels of pollution, which may increase disease transmission and make symptoms for the disease worse, even beyond diseases such as COVID-19. With hospitals and urgent cares full, we will see an increase in medical waste and biohazardous waste. Based on satellite measurements by the European Space Agency's TROPIME instrument on the Copernicus Sentinel 5P satellite, there's a visible drop in nitrogen dioxide emissions, particularly over northern Italy, which you'll see about right now, where strict quarantine policies are in place due to the novel coronavirus. So the federal government is perhaps the most important role here in America to help minimize the spread of COVID-19. Recently, they passed a phase 2 bill, which was to expand unemployment insurance, ensure that workers get paid sick leave, expand food assistance programs, and ensure free testing for COVID-19. The Senate is currently working on a phase 3 package. The current Republican plan is to provide up to $1,200 per adult, making under $75,000, which should cover most of us, unless you have a side gig that's paying you more, and please tell me if you do. And this is going to be based on your 2018 tax return. People making over $75,000 will see a smaller check up to the $99,000 mark, which you would not receive any of this stimulus money. In addition, taxpayers would receive $500 per dependent. Senator John Barrasso, a Republican in Wyoming, wants his infrastructure bill attached to this third stimulus package, which would authorize $287 billion for roads and bridges over the span of 5 years. A comprehensive infrastructure plan would provide a long-lasting and permanent fix to the national economy. Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana says that long-term, our GDP will improve. We can borrow at the currently record low interest rates and minimize the negative impact on our debt. While government investment in infrastructure has bipartisan support, the two major political parties disagree on the means and methods. Congress has not given infrastructure much priority lately either. However, it is important to note that infrastructure investment has a high return on investment and makes fiscal sense to invest in it now. Investment may also see impacts due to decreased overall 2020 tax revenues from a variety of sources and increased budget allocations to other government programs such as health services. This will ultimately affect future civil engineering projects. While the government tries to fix the crisis, companies and workers are having to adapt to COVID-19 in unprecedented ways. In the civil engineering industry, a lot of us have moved our office to home. This is due to the advancement of the cloud and remote data access capabilities, virtual private networks, network licensing, group chat, and video conferencing. Company data systems are currently getting a stress test from COVID-19. However, not everybody is set up yet. Companies around the world are in various stages of still switching from local networking systems to cloud infrastructure, between a few gigabytes of data for sole proprietors to one case of 400 terabytes across 60 different offices. Some employers are switching to a half in, half out system as a social distancing measure. So the office will only see half of the employees as usual, and then these employees will be on a rotation. Other employers actually fear what precedent might come from working at home. So instead, they're just giving their staff non-essential paid leave. Non-essential staff, they're giving them paid leave. So that way they don't feel incentivized to continue to work from home in the future. Workers that are currently working out in the fields are on a case-by-case basis, as previously discussed in the construction slides, but are still having to practice social distancing. Overall, COVID-19 has highlighted the need for contingency plans in the industry so we are prepared for the next crisis. From learning how to work from home and to hopefully getting a comprehensive national infrastructure plan, I defer to the words of Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of England during World War II, of never let a crisis go to waste. So I have included some just links to various websites about the coronavirus, and it's super important right now that you only use trusted government and World Health Organization websites. There's been a lot of malicious websites that are basically displaying fake coronavirus information and then giving users malware. And then finally, if you're interested in some of the research that I did, then I'm also including all my sources. In addition, I also put links to each of these sources directly on the individual slides, and I'll make sure that I get these out to Matthew to send out. And thank you to Matt for inviting me to speak today. Thank you for coming up with a cool and interesting topic where I actually had to do work and put together a presentation. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Thank you for listening, and I'd love to answer your questions.
Okay, so now I'm going to unmute everybody. And then if you have any questions, just say your first, last name, and then you can ask your question.
I actually just found out something right now about COVID-19. So, for you who may or may not know me, my name is Luis Diaz. I actually live in Lancaster, and we just had the first case of dying from this virus. Like, I just heard about it like maybe 10 minutes ago. But this kid who goes to one of the high schools here just passed away today. And it's the first case in the U.S. of a teenager dying to this virus. So we're not all immune to it, even though we're in our youth.
Yeah, it was actually kind of interesting. I think with China, being kind of ground zero, then they were actually seeing that as mostly elderly people. But then when we saw cases in France and even here in the U.S., we're actually seeing that a lot of military this virus. This actually kind of mirrors that 1918 influenza that I talked about. I did some nerd research last night on YouTube, and apparently that literally spread across the war lines of World War I. So it was literally being passed off through the world in trenches. And again, a lot of young and theoretically healthy people were dying. So make sure that you are practicing your social distancing. Make sure that you're just taking care of yourself so that hopefully you can prevent yourself from getting this virus.
Hi, I have a question. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. Yep. So going back to how civil engineering has changed, going remote or virtual, and I know you talked about how the construction industry, some of them are slowing down. What does it mean for the work for civils? You said bidding speeding up, but is design still happening? Can you speak a little more about that?
Yeah, so actually, as someone who is working in like basically the private and kind of public sector, I work in the private sector, but I do it as assisting public agencies. They are not letting down on any of our deadlines. So rest assured, I will be working after this because we have deadlines in like 2 days. And yeah, just a lot of agencies are continuing to push forward. Some agencies are seeing some delays, so some projects might get eased back on schedule. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's really kind of varying from agency to agency. In terms of future work for when a lot of you guys, for where a lot of you guys will be working out in the field, well, in the field of civil engineering, not maybe necessarily out in the field, then we're gonna have to wait and see, because again, a lot of this comes back to where is the money coming from to pay for all this. So if that money's not coming in, then we might see a dip in work. Now, hopefully it's able to kind of get spread out over time so we really don't see it, but there will be a fiscal impact.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions?
Hey, Sam, it's Pierce.
Hey, Pierce.
So, do you think any companies are going to do like a hiring freeze over the summer or anything like that?
So one of the other trends of the industry right now is a lot of companies have a ton of backlog, which is work that they have lined up and ready to go. They just have to start it. So I think that now basically COVID-19 is just going to chip away at that backlog until we're back to kind of zero and even. So that we do have some padding, some room to kind of give before we start seeing major impacts. But otherwise, I don't see hiring freezes happening anytime soon.
Thank you.
Hey Sam, this is Eddie. I guess to kind of back up what you said earlier about the transportation part of civil engineering kind of going down because of what's going on. No one's driving, no one's out. I did apply to Metro. Well, I tried applying to Metro. I messaged them, and then they said they're currently not taking any interns at the moment because it's considered a non-essential or whatever. So I think it is a little tough at the moment for internships if that's what anyone's.
Yeah, I think internships are kind of like separate category. I think Pierce's question was more towards the broader workforce. But yeah, I think there will definitely be maybe some impact to some of these lower, lesser non-essential positions.
Yeah, I agree with Sam. Like for internship that I applied to, they said that they're cutting back on interns just because of this whole virus and working remotely. So it's not like the best case scenario, and you don't want to teach an intern remotely.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's Jennifer again. So let's say some people aren't able to get internships. What are some things as a student and you're going to apply maybe in fall, what are some skills we can build on to kind of get us ahead or prepared?
I think that one of the first things that you might want to ask is if you do have a company or someone in mind, ask maybe if you can try to virtually shadow someone.
Okay.
I mean, usually you try to do this as like an unpaid intern, but in this case, we have to socially distance ourselves. So you can get creative. In addition to working on projects, I'm sure there's something that you guys can do and try to put together. Maybe look for like a good volunteer engineering project that once again you can do remotely, but that you can get experience through and ultimately make a resume item.
Okay. Thank you.
I would also like to add to that, if it's okay. I think this is like probably the perfect opportunity to study for your FE if you haven't taken it already.
Thanks.
2 thumbs up. Thank you.
Yeah. And then Pierce is also figuring out some outreach things that we can do remotely. So he's going to post that up on our Instagram and our Slack. So if you guys want to do some outreach stuff, then contact Pierce.
Cool.
But yeah, no, definitely take advantage of the extra free time. Use it to get involved. Use it for home projects. Use it for self-improvement projects. I know I just started like a new, there's a website called Coursera.com, and they just added a class from Yale University on the psychology of being happy. So I'm going to be taking that course. and it's
Do
for
you
free.
have that link?
So
I also would like to add something. Hi, I'm Wahida Akbarzi. For those who want to learn from courses like Coursera, CSUN decided to give us free LinkedIn learning accounts, which used to be lynda.com if we use our CSUN emails for it. So I signed up for it, and there's a ton of courses in there. Any program that's in there, you got it. I'm a mechanical engineer, so SolidWorks is my thing. They have finite element analysis in there. They have a course for that. They have a course for AutoCAD, advanced AutoCAD. I know that's really important for civils. So if anyone needs to brush up on their skills, I highly suggest you sign into LinkedIn Learning.
Cool, thank you.
yeah, you guys are all college students. You guys have access to the world. I lost that access.
Hello, Henry Matthias here. So I want to know like how this would impact like future classes, because like officially CSUN's only going to be online for the rest of the semester, but like I'm planning on doing summer classes, and I have no idea, is CSUN going to like for online classes, and are those going to be online, and if so, how would that affect which courses I take?
I think there's two phases. One is still during the virus classes, and then the second is going to be post-virus classes. I think during virus classes, I honestly don't know how labs are going to work. I don't know what you guys have been doing, but like I just remember like some of my labs where it's like I don't have sieves and liquid limit tests and like Brunel hardness testing and tensile machines at home. I mean, yeah, I just have my laptop, so I mean,
We get the data.
YouTube.
They give us the data.
Oh damn.
Yeah. So it's given
I
to
was
us.
going to add
I think-
to the summer classes thing. I think what I've been talking to a lot of folks about is this, that 317 will probably be not as effective over the summer. AM 317, which is the lab class. And classes like construction engineering, that's like a perfect class to take over the summer, even if it goes online too. So, and including like if you're going into like thermodynamics or fluids or any classes like that, I think just hands-on labs, just like 317, is just going to be held off until fall.
I think some people will be able to handle those labs just fine, but then on the other hand, you're going to have some people that depend on these hands-on learning activities to actually learn, and they're going to be devoid of that, and it's going to suck for their educational experience. Going forward, definitely going to see a lot more online classes, a lot more online usage. Professor doesn't want to show up one day, it's like, oh sweet, I've already recorded a lecture, so you guys are just going to have to still watch that lecture on your own during the time that you would be in class. And yeah, exams still on the same schedule, not pushing that back. So I think there's definitely going to be a bit more of an element of academic rigor from this.
Sam, I had a question for you. I know, or I'm starting to see that a lot of universities are like implementing like a pass-fail system. I wanted to like know what's your opinion on that, like as a civil engineering student, like how do you think that would affect us?
Ooh, got him.
I'm not a, I think it's
okay, Sam.
I think personally grades are important because they can measure how well you're able to adapt to what a professor is able to give you. On the other hand, pass-fail, that's kind of how life works. You're either passing or you're failing. But then also it doesn't give you a lot of insight into how much did I pass or how much did I fail. For example, I know when you take your FE exam, you get your results, it's a pass and detailed fail. So you get to know what you need to work on at least, and that's really how the system should be implemented. And then, but then at the same time, it's like, if you're just barely getting by, you're getting that same amount of information as someone who's excelling well. So there is a bit of it's a touchy topic.
All right. Any other questions?
I think Denise Dog has a question.
This is all for show and tell.
All right, so thanks, Sam, for coming. We're going to probably have another person come in and do a virtual session in 2 weeks. So I'm trying to reach out to Monica Morales